Are you looking for a faster video? Well, today it's a live stream, and I know you're probably looking for a really nice and tidy, edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing!
Hi, how's it going? Hi, Ray. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Dylan. Hello, Jara. Welcome. Welcome. I almost accidentally pressed end stream instead of putting on this camera. What? Okay, so the funny thing is, I just wound a bobbin and I prepared to be here, and I think I'm gonna barely be at my straight stitch machine, so you're not gonna see my face much today. So hi Terry, how's it going? So if you're new here, hi Karen, because I know I shared this in the 5 out of 4 patterns group, and I gave a little introduction to that on the cutting yesterday, but I know that the post didn't get approved in time for yesterday's stream, so it was probably my first time posting in that group. I'm kind of shy about doing that kind of thing, so I even like emailed them and like asked in another group, am I allowed to do that? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. And then it gets like vetted anyway, so I probably should have just tried it. So then it would have maybe gotten there on time. But hi Nancy, hi Sarah, hi Aisha. Okay, so if you're new here, my name is Saremy, it rhymes with Jeremy, and I won't bore you with my pedigree, no, my resume, but I do have sewn for a long time, and I am a trained pattern drafter and designer, and I did it in the outdoor industry and in the garment industry for a long time, and I've had my own factory as well. Hi Angela. So if you want to chat with us, and we love it when you do, you need to sign into your YouTube account or make one, and it's called a channel. And I think that also lets you comment on videos, like anybody's YouTube video, or like if you want to like a video so you can find it later, or save it to a playlist so you can watch it over and over. You can do that in your own like settings. You'll need to sign in, but you don't have to. It's okay if you're lurking here. Maybe you're a little shy. Maybe you just don't have anything to say. Maybe you just want us on as background and company in your sewing room. We all understand that. It's a really amazing community here, and they're all at different sewing levels. They're all from everywhere around the world, and they're a really great resource. So if you have like a fabric you're looking for a pattern for, or if you have a pattern you're looking for a fabric for, ask these folks. They're really good. They're better than me at that. You're welcome to ask questions, challenge me on how I'm doing something, ask me to do it differently, you know, stuff like that. But pretty much I'm going to be sewing along, and I'll be explaining what I'm doing. I'm not paid to do this. This is just something I love to do. I really believe in live streams. I know they're a little bit weird. I know people wish they were faster, and that's why you have to suffer through that whole long intro, so that if you are watching this uploaded, because it will upload, there's ways to make it faster. So, hi Nicole, hi Lydia. Did I say hi to you, Angela? Hi, Margaret. Long-time lurker. Nice. I'm so glad. Oh, you're knitting a hat. Nice. Perfect weather for it here. I have my knitting here today to take some photographs of cocoons. The cocoon project bag. I'm ready to launch it, and I almost launched it last night, and I was like, oh yeah, you're selling some samples and you need photographs of that. You need actually a product listing to do that. Everything else is ready. I agonized over everything, and then I was like, oh yeah. I have like 20 of them to sell. So, all right, so I'm sorry it's so dark right now. It won't stay like this. It's because of this. This is why I didn't sew this one on camera. It's really rare that I will sew. This is actually probably the first time I've ever sewn something before I live streamed it, and it's only because it's black. And I'm making these hoodies for my niece and my nephew wanted solid black. So let me brighten it up a little bit for you. And feel free to ask things like that, like, can you zoom in? You know, can you show us at a different angle? But do know that there is a bit of a delay between when I said something and when you hear it. So if you say something like yes in the chat, I may not know what you're referring to. So it's really helpful to say, can you show that cuff again, rather than can you show us closer? Something like that. So it helps me. I did change the latency. I just learned that helps. I didn't even know that helps because I don't really know. I'm not an expert on video stuff. I'm really good at sewing though. So, and I will make mistakes, and you'll see me get out of it. I don't hide anything, and trust me when I tell you, I definitely make mistakes here. So, all right. So this is the little hoodie. It's not really that little. This is the size 14, and it has the eyelets and the draw cord, and the front zipper. And I did the twill tape. My twill tape's a little gigantic though. I had to be kind of clever here because I didn't want it to interfere with the zipper, but I'm actually quite pleased. I'm going to probably tack that down a little better. I did it at a little bit of an angle at the center front here, just kind of a nice little detail you can see, and then it narrows down around the neck, and I just top stitched it down. It has the kangaroo pocket and the rib waistband. The only modification I'll be doing to the pattern is that I made the rib waistband into one pattern piece rather than two fronts and a back, and I showed how I did that in the cutting video. Let's see what else. On the one I'm making today, the only difference is that it has thumb holes on the cuff, so we're adding one more bell or whistle, as it were. So, all right. And I got someone asking about how to shorten a zipper. I think I may have the first time ever supreme luck that my zippers are actually the same length as my center front, but I will talk about it in depth about how to shorten the top of the zipper, because yeah, if you cut it, you're going to be left with a pretty pokey thing there, and not all zippers can be cut. So, all right, so we're going to get to this crazy fabric that my niece picked out. That black sweatshirt, I'm like so scared it's going to touch the floor, and you know what my floor must look like here, right? You were getting the jumpy camera heat effect. Was I getting that on, not this fabric, I hope. Please don't tell me this fabric. I feel like this fabric shouldn't be too much. This fabric is not showing up what it really looks like though. Like this purple here, you can kind of see it at this angle. This purple is more like the thumbnail frame. So, all right, so the first thing we're going to do, we spent some time recutting the fronts yesterday, or I did, to match the print, right? So that it's really going to barely be detectable there. And then also the whole front is continuous, so we're not going to interrupt that. It means the side seams aren't going to match to the back though. That was the compromise we made. All right, so we're going to cover stitch the pocket opening, and I was just thinking about, could I cover stitch these on? I mean, I could, but honestly there's no back stitch with the cover stitch, so I'm probably just going to use my single needle for that. So let's go to our serger camera, and we're going to cover stitch these pocket openings. So let me know if you can see and hear everything okay. I'm going to put my chat on my phone here. Oh, thanks, Angela. Well, if you weren't there, you didn't see that I didn't do a beautiful job at first. What did I just do with, oh, is this them right here? Oh my gosh, they're so tiny. They're smaller than the scraps I have to test sewing out on. Yeah, so I cut the fronts out and then I cut the back and then I was like, oh, let's match our pockets. And then I couldn't find the pockets. And then I realized, wait a minute, I want my center front to match because I just cut 2. So it was a good exercise in what not to do and then what to do. All right, so I'm just going to go straight across the entire one. So I'm kind of thinking that, yeah, I'm going to do it from this side. Why not? On my nephews, I did it from the reverse side. I put my cover stitch at the widest needle setting. The narrow just seemed like way too narrow. Let's see how I did. Oh, I got a little bit off right there, but there we go. We have our cover stitch. Let's do this one. So like I explained in the cutting video as well, when you fold this back, when I sewed my nephews, I was kind of like, huh, that's interesting. This doesn't really meet the seam here, this fold back edge. And this one obviously doesn't either. Angela, oh my goodness. Thank you. That's very nice of you. I haven't done anything impressive yet. Wait, why am I getting 2? Oh, thanks, Terry. I got 2 alerts. That's what's going on right there. So the thing is, I was a little bit concerned by this, but then I was like, you know what? It's not going to matter because you turn back this edge and stitch it down on the jacket. And I think that's intentional so that you have this continuous raw edge going around because it almost lines up when you use the seam allowance. Whoops, let's do this from the right side. So with the cover stitch, you do it from the right side. It's a little awkward on these angles too. It's a little harder to judge if you're on it for some reason. It's like an optical illusion. Just focus on your line here. All right. Okay. So now we can attach these to the front. What are you guys working on? Anyone sewing today? It's very obvious which one goes where, isn't it? This also helps keep my pocket from not sewing it in like this. Don't do this. This isn't how it goes. I mean, it looks like it could go that way, honestly. Right? I think some of those sizes will work either way, but some of them won't. All right, so I'm going to turn back this edge here 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to put a few pins just in the middle of the pocket, just so it doesn't shift around. I don't really need to fold back my edge, but if you need to fold it back and pin it and then stitch across, go for it. I totally support that. You will see I don't pin very often. I am not against it at all. I use it as well, use pens as well. Same with like the clips, if you like the clips. I also feel like there's a lot of times where pinning kind of gets in my way. So you're watching the second utility jacket video. That's a pretty ambitious project, Terry. You're putting together PDF patterns, really. Oh, there's no registration marks. Oh, you're working. So no new sewing, womp womp. Embroidering a shirt for a customer, ooh, nice. Oh, I don't even have this machine on. Oh yeah, I do. Oh, there we go, okay. I haven't sewn anything yet though. All right. So I'm gonna start from the raw edge, I'm gonna do a double needle stitch. Like I'm gonna still give it that double needle look. That's why I'm going to start from the bottom raw edge. And then I'm going to go across a couple stitches. I'm just doing this because it kind of mirrors the stitching of the pocket that I just did right here. I did this a little wiggly right there. Just ignore that. And then I'm going to, I feel like because of that, it'll also kind of reinforce this pocket because it's a kind of a high stress area and it is a kid's jacket. So I just thought that might be kind of a nice way to give it a little bit of oomph. I'm just doing a couple stitches at the end there. Oh gosh, that just, my seam allowance just pushed it out of the way. There we go. And then I'm gonna just tack it at the corner here like that and get rid of this little thread. I always get this long tail thread and I don't want it like getting sucked into the garment and showing. Oh, I remember Terry. Yep. Okay. All right, same thing here. Should probably pay attention to matching my print too, but it seems like it's pretty spot on for the most part. Why did that have to end right in the middle of this white star? Now I feel a lot of pressure to do a good job there. Look at that. What are the chances? What are the odds of that? Ooh, nice, Sarah. A boat cover for Baja. Are you going to Baja? Is this for your boat? One of my first jobs working somewhere where there was sewing happening was in a upholstery shop, and they specialized in boats in like Newport Beach, and we got some of the craziest jobs. Hello, Sydney. It was kind of amazing. Like, it was kind of amazing, like what those guys could do, like what they could sew. You know, all the channeling and the piping on vinyl. Ugh, customer's boat. Yeah, and we would get to go out there sometimes. Like sometimes I didn't get to leave the shop very often, you know, because I was there because the owner was out like doing bids and delivering and stuff like that all the time. So I was usually at the shop, but sometimes he would need help taking measurements on a particular project. So, no, Nancy, we didn't. I don't even know. We just had, I don't know. Hey, April, how's it going? You're not late. Anytime's fine. I just started like 20 minutes ago. Usually I talk for a while, but because this month we have the sew-along for a blazer happening on Saturdays, Wednesday, Thursdays, I'm cutting and sewing an entire garment on Thursdays, and so I try not to chit-chat too much at the beginning because I'm going to finish this today. And in general, like, I'm sewing part 1 on Thursday and sewing part 2 on Saturday, and so, like, it gives me a little bit of breathing room. In fact, I was trying to plan October, and I was like, oh, I'm doing the Fairfield button-up with plaid matching. And I thought, did I really make that so I have to sew all of it on a Thursday? No, I'm not doing that. That's too much. I could do it. I've done it before, but I feel like it's just nicer. It's too long for everybody, you know? So I'm going to wait till the end of the month because I think the blazer's sew-along, I think we only have 3 more sewing days. It's going so fast. So this is weird, Carrie? Really? You don't watch on a computer usually? Right, Nancy? Second largest employment industry in the world, yet none of our phones understand what we're saying. All right, I'm going to do the shoulder seams and the side seams. I'm trying to stick to the order of the pattern since I didn't when I sewed my nephews, and I realized, oh, shoot. I better make sure I'm doing this roughly in the order of the instructions. So, you know, I haven't shared this tip in a really long time because honestly, I forget to use it myself. But And this actually goes for shoulder seams too. I think of this mostly as a good tip on side seams, but if you're using a serger, and just follow, just like let me say everything, because it might sound a little confusing at first, but it's not once I show you what I mean. So one of my tips is, if you're using a serger, in general, most people think the stitching on the top of the serger is the right side of the serger. It doesn't matter. There's a, you know, like if you think this side of the serger is the right side or this side, it's up to you. My point is, pick which one you think is the right side, and then always sew with that on the front pieces of your project. That way, when you get to something like sewing in the sleeve, when you see the stitching, you'll be like, oh, I know that this was the front piece, and you'll know which way to push your seam allowance. It's a really subtle tip, but it makes sewing so much easier. On this little kid's garment, it's not going to be a big deal because the pieces are so small. But if you're sewing something like a men's shirt or a woman's shirt, you know, something bigger or long sleeved or something like that, it's nice when you're inside. That thing is clinging to me. Whoa, what was that? Oh, thank you. I didn't catch the name. Foodie Styles. Welcome. So that way, like, say you're sitting here arranging your sleeve and everything, and you're like worried about getting your sleeve in nice and smooth. When you approach the seam up here, you'll know on your sleeve which way is the front and the back, right? But it is easy to get kind of confused. And when you're sitting here like this, you're like, wait, where am I at? Which one was the front and which one's the back? If you see the stitching and you see the nice side on this, you'll be like, okay, now I know I press it that way. Because that's the side that you want facing up. It's just helps, especially if you do a lot of knits or you're doing it professionally. It does mean that you break one of my other little like tips though. And that is, like, I usually like to sew from the same end on each seam. So if I'm sewing from the armhole and going down, you know, I would do the same thing over here. But I would much rather have the stitching be on the right side. So, oh, look at that. I really got into my selvage on this piece. Ay, ay, ay. Can you see those little dots? Oh, you can't. That's why I did it. Shoot. All right, well, sorry, Ellie. Just gonna wonder what that is on the inside of her little sweatshirt that she picked. That's out of this world. Sorry, I can't resist. Stop that, okay. All right, so on 3 of my 4 seams, I actually did it where it's the right side stitching on the front pieces. Yeah, of course, you guys. Yeah, right, Nicole? Sometimes that happens to me too. Not on this machine so much, but my other one did that a lot. And I don't blame you for doing that at all. In fact, if you saw me sew anything before on my serger, I have this hair and I can't find it. It's driving me nuts. I would do the same thing. I would sew my seam on the single needle and then go to the serger. It's not overkill at all if you want your seam to not pull apart there. Sometimes if you just match the thread really well, no one will notice. Because it's not going to come apart. It's just that you can see your thread, right? You might try adjusting something you don't think is... There it is, I found it. Yay! You might try adjusting something that you don't think is going to affect that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Nicole. Yeah, I mean, we can't be expected to have... cone thread to match every single project. It's so expensive. Yeah, sure. All right, pocket, shoulders, sides, waistband. We're going to do the waistband now. So I cut my waistband, like I said, in one piece. But if you cut yours in your front, two fronts and a back, I would seam them together, right sides together. This thing looks really small. There's no way this is it. Wait a minute. Did I cut it wrong? There is no way. We might be cutting something out again. Did I like write down? You guys saw me do my math. You guys don't double check my math. I knew 20 1/4 seemed kind of small. 8. Oh, you know why? Because I didn't double the front. Oh my gosh. I can instantly see what I did wrong. What do I need here? Do I not have a calculator on this computer? I usually pin a calculator to all my taskbars. So I need to add 8 3/4 to this. Nah. Wah. Sorry, I'm looking for this. Back to the drawing board. I knew that was fishy. You know, when you know it's fishy, you gotta investigate, right? Oof, I do have a piece here that's gonna work for you. Okay, I'm gonna use my calculator, and it was 8.75 times 2 plus, what was the back? I don't trust my math. I have to do it like 5 times, you know? Let's see, 15 7/8. Minus 1.5 for the seam allowance is 30 1/4. That's far cry different than 20 1/4. How is that 10 inches different? I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. Oh, we're doing size 8. Oh my gosh. 7.75 times 2. 29 1/2. Oh my gosh. By 5 3/4. 29 1/2 by 5 3/4. Sorry, friends. Let me put my stream back on here. All right. Why does it say minus 1.47? I'm hoping I didn't miss any chat. All right. So I need it to be 5 3/4, which is, this piece is big enough. I'm going to cut it along the stripes. I don't know if you can see these stripes. It's like a heather. I still don't believe anything. Yeah, okay. $29.5. I'm going to use my big chunka ruler because it makes it so much easier. 5 3/4. I'm barely getting it, but this edge is rolled. My other one I starched the heck out of too. kind of pains me to cut like this. Since I'm right-handed. The reason I really want this whole long piece to be intact rather than having the fronts and the back is I just like I really want it to look as ready to wear as possible. You know how kids are too, right? Like they want it to look like nobody made it for them. I would have these like crazy begging fests in the aisles of the Halloween costumes of Target. Because all my daughter wanted was a store-bought Halloween costume. And I was like, no, please. I need to make it. I don't want you to have one of those. And it was really funny because I remember like twice moms would be like, oh my gosh, kid, she's willing to make you something. My daughter would kill for that. And I was like, no, don't say that to her. It's pretty funny. What are you guys talking about over here? Let's see. Yeah. I know. I agree. The fabric thing, the thickness of the fabric makes a big difference for the seam. You flip your rotary around? Oh, interesting. You flip your rotary around. Where is it? There we go. All right, so now we're ready to put on the waistband. Sorry about that. See, mistakes happen. I'm the expert. Well, yeah, but I do think machines are different. You know, like the one thing with this serger, I would say, is that it doesn't go very wide. Like I wish I could get the stitch to be wider. And I do miss having the separate seam to the left of the serging, like a 5-thread serger. I miss having that. And having that always prevented what we're talking about. So if you want your serging to look very ready to wear, you're definitely going to get something that makes a chain stitch seam on one, on the left, and then the serging on the right with a little space in between them, like my old serger did. It's not necessary though. That's awesome, Sydney. All right, so we're going to serge this on here. And then we're going to do the zipper. We ain't messing around here. Oh, that's so weird. Look at my phone is back at I'm gonna refresh. Okay, there we go. It's like my phone is like way in the past. All right, so this fabric rolls pretty bad. That's why I starched it. I'm new to starch. I will admit I'm pretty new to starch. I'm going to mark the center of my waistband. I don't have the benefit of the seams as kind of landmarks to line up to my side seams, So if you left yours intact, it'll be a little bit easier to figure out like where the fronts go to when you're stretching. But this is enough. Like just having a center notch will be enough. Were there, Sydney? Oh, interesting. No, I think it just did that because it knew I had been watching it, and so it held my place. Because I kept going back to the calculator. All right, I'm not going to pin this except at the center back probably. And let's see, I didn't mark my center back here, so we're going to mark the center back of the bottom Usually I do that in cutting. That's so funny. I did it at the neck. I didn't do it down here. So I just do a little bit of a V nip. I fold it in half. That's just so I can sometimes see it easier in serging, but honestly, in this case, it doesn't matter. It's just faster. I buffered. Oh, interesting. Weird. We've had some really bad internet issues at my house. But up here, it should be fine. All right. I don't even, like, this is all kind of a little, feeling like a hot mess, right? We don't care about all this. We're just going to worry about the few inches right in front of us, right? I'm going to get going a little tiny bit. I don't want any torquing in my waistband. In fact, you know what? I don't know why I didn't do this. I will say, I do like when I have these really long, narrow pieces. This one's rolling so bad, the starch is doing nothing. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just pin down here at this fold of the waistband. Now that it's in the machine, I made it a little bit hard to do this. Where's my center? There it is. Let's line up the centers. And so I'm not pinning at the raw edge. I'm pinning pretty far away. In fact, I'm going to pin in line. These pins are really long. And then that way I can kind of prevent it from torquing, you know. I did this on my nephews, I forgot. And it really is a good thing to do. It just kind of gives you that fold edge there. Especially since this is rolling like a churro. All right, and then we're gonna just line up our center. Oof, it's rolling so bad. Maybe I should have starched it on both sides. Using a clip would be safe. So let's look at this. Let's see if can I show it. It barely needs to stretch. See that? You probably can't see it, but it barely needs to stretch. Oh my gosh. Heck a roly. All right. Now we're ready. Really make sure you have 3 layers when you're doing this. You'll be pretty sad if this middle layer kind of sneaks out of the seam. And sometimes some fabrics really do kind of push away and ooch out of there. And it's, if you're using your serger, it's such a pain in the butt to remove the seam just so you can like add that in. It's like the one spot you can't kind of fake it. Like if it were straight stitch, right, you could actually just make your seam allowance a tiny bit bigger and include it. And with the serger, you only have a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You don't really want to do that. All right, so let's line up our center front here. The starch needs heat to flatten. That's right. Thank you, Delta. I told you I'm a noob when it comes to starch, you guys. I'm one of those people that's like, if I don't have it, I'm just going to figure out a different way. Yeah, that's I like that, Ray. Pinning away from the edge. I think that if you don't have to remove the pins as you go, you have both your hands available to you. And that's why I just kind of keep them down there. Really just to prevent any torquing. We don't want our waistband. What I mean by torquing is you don't want this edge. If these 2 spots right here are supposed to be across from each other, you don't want this one to be back here and this one to be this way, right? Creating these weird diagonal lines. The other thing you can do to kind of help prevent that is if you have the ability to lighten up the pressure of your presser foot, don't make it heavier thinking, oh, I need more pressure because I want it to stay in place. What happens is it kind of pushes it out of the way. especially something like this. This fleece is really bulky, and right now I'm going through 2 layers of the pocket, with the pocket and then the bottom. All right, so one of the things you're going to be thinking about, kind of, you know, in advance of when you get there, is if your waistband is the same width on either side here, because we need this center front here to be the same length. We need the pockets to line up right here. We need this seam to line up right here. We need the waistband to line up. It's a lot. And I will say, of all the things you do on the sweatshirt, this is the most difficult, is making sure you have all these. You're going to have a seam here, 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 here. All 4 places need to line up when you do the zipper. Yeah, right, Nicole? It's like a stay stitch. Yeah, right, Cynthia? Hi, Libby. No, you didn't. Linen scraps. Ooh. I don't know. A quilt. See this nice little navy blue heather. It's super soft too. Promise it matches the fabric. Yeah, all right. So now we're going to do the zipper, right? Yep, we're going to do the zipper now. Let's see if my zipper is the same as my center front. I tried to buy what was recommended in the pattern, but maybe, I don't remember if it was available or not. So my zipper is a tiny bit taller, which I bet you guys are all happy about, so that I have to shorten it. And the first side's always the easiest, because the first side, we just need to get the zipper on there. And then the other side has to bend to the will of the other one so that all these little seams match up, right? So the first thing we're going to do, just unzip it a little bit. So we're going to look at this. So this seam right here, you want this to press up. Some fabrics, if you're doing something kind of lightweight and you have a, you know, like maybe a stretchy stitch, you could even top stitch this here. But I feel like with knits, especially things like something as classic as the hoodie, less is more. You may feel like I need to top stitch it down and beat it into submission if it's not kind of doing what you want. But I feel like with knits, your eye is not going to go to the fact that the seam is pushing down in some places and pushing up in others or whatever. It just looks more natural if you just leave it be, right? Oh, cool, Cynthia. You do it by hand. Wow. So I'm doing the view with the hood, not the collar. So if you're doing the collar, I don't know if anyone's doing the collar. Let me briefly look at the directions and just see what kind of collar it is. I actually left up the directions, but I didn't print them. I left up the directions to see what kind of collar it is. Okay, so, oh, you don't clean finish it. Oh, that's interesting. So this is a little easier to sew. Right? Yeah. It's like it's there and then it's not. Okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, so if you're doing the collar, you are going to stop the zipper at the top of the collar, and you've attached the collar. You need to attach the collar to the hoodie before, or the jacket. It's not a hoodie if it has a collar, and then put your zipper on. So don't attach the zipper until you have your collar on. And you will just line up these raw edges here, and then you're just going to sew them in just like I'm sewing this in now. So it's not any different, except that you're going to have a collar here and a seam to match across from one another, and then the top edge. It's kind of the same here. We have this top edge we have to match going across as well. All right. Some people don't like hoods at all. And there's a lot of kids that have you know, sensory sensitivities and things like that. Like maybe they don't like draw cords, maybe they don't like the eyelet, maybe they don't like the scratchy hem of the hood. So the collar would be a really good option for that. Or maybe a hood is just kind of, they just don't like that look. I feel like even some hoods are banned in schools. So you could do the collar version. You could put like a really soft fleece like this on the collar facing the child's face, and then whatever fabric you're using on the outer. It's a nice little touch. We used to do things like that. All right, so we definitely want this to line up down here. Let's get my pen cushion. It would almost be better to sew the other side first because I can sew from the bottom going up. All right. I'm going to line this edge right up here, and I am going to pin it. Now with my nephews, the zipper was a little smaller than the front length, so it actually makes it a little easier. So if your zipper is within a 1/2 inch of being, like if you could go smaller within a 1/2 inch, I recommend that. Because if it's a knit, there's no problem, and it's okay to stretch it a tiny, tiny bit because it won't seem like that you're stretching it. You don't want to stretch too much though, because that's how you get the bumpy, wavy front. You know, those hoodies that are just like a roller coaster? That's why. Just lay this nice and flat here. We don't have to match anything up yet. We're just gonna sew it on actually. I'm just gonna go from the bottom. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna stretch anything. All right, so we have this right sides together. I don't use a zipper foot. I don't think I'm going to need to because my zipper tape is pretty wide. Oh, you know what I want to do? I want to overlock my fronts. Sorry. You don't need to, but I want to. So I'm going to overlock the fronts. There we go. Oh, man. All right. Let's overlock our fronts. So when you do the overlocking, make sure you're not stretching anything because you don't want to make matching your zipper up later harder. This will also like start, I can put the seams facing the direction I want. I can trim up the edge a tiny bit. Leave yourself a tail as well. It comes in a hank. It's very soft. You can leave it online. I had friends teach me how to pull one thread out of a like a hank of embroidery floss, and it really made using embroidery floss so much more pleasurable. I'm not very good at it though, so I still sometimes like pull too many. Okay. All right, I'm gonna leave these tails because I'm gonna kind of tuck them in. Did you guys see that tip that someone had shared, then I shared it? So you know how you guys have always been, oh, I had a couple things to tell you. How you guys have always, like I've always hated the serger tails. It's like my thing, I just hate serger tails. And what I like to do usually is I like to bend them back into the seam and I just stitch it down with my machine and then trim it really close because I don't like seeing any of this stuff, right? And this person, you know, you guys are always like, use a tapestry needle. Well, it never dawned on me to like, say if you had, you know, say you had a tail here coming out the seam, It never dawned on me to go between the layers of the fabric inside the seam. I always thought you just went inside the stitching here, and you know you can see your tail through there, but most people wouldn't even notice it. But in the seam, looks so good. I thought that was such a great tip. Okay, here we go. We're back at it. Okay. I'm just going to leave this tail for now, because I'm going to put it into the seam allowance. All right. All right, so I'm not going to pull at all. I'm definitely going to make sure that the serging is in the seam allowance of this seam so that it doesn't show on the right side. That is the risk with overlocking the edge, and it definitely sometimes sneaks out, you know? Because mainly it's because maybe you can't get close enough to the zipper to sew the seam so that your serging isn't kind of sneaking out of that seam. All right, so we're getting up at the top. I'm going to pull down the zipper. So I'm just going to unzip it, lift up my presser foot, pull it down. Still in my machine here. And when I get to this top edge here, I wish I could tighten up that camera. Did you guys see that 5 out of 4 gave us a code for this? Isn't that nice? 20% off. It's right there on the screen, right here. Oh my gosh, right there. Through October. It's for the kids' Hyde. It's very specific, but 20% off. That's great. That was so generous. Okay, so when we get up here at the top, you see that my zipper is too long. So now my preference and on my nephews, it worked out. This is why I say getting it a tiny bit short is great. You want this tape to go into the seam right there, right? And then that way this little stops right below there. And then you can just, you know, sew it, no problem. It's just in the seam, no big deal, right? Where this way I can't do that. If I do that, if I go straight all the way through, so my coil is right here. So this stop is lining up with the raw edge of my hoodie. But my seam allowance is down here. Now, technically, I could sew through that seam, but the thing is that little coil can still be really pokey right here. And so if you don't want that, you can bend this like this. It's just, I push my finger down on the coil and I bend it 90 degrees. And you get this little like flap of tape there. And you can line it up going down along the coil or up. I like going up. I don't like anything potentially interfering with the slide of the zipper. And what I would do is I would bend this so that the coil chain ends so that you can still sew the seam right here. And then it'll look like this on the right side. You've seen that before, right? Oh, right, Carrie. Yeah, my presser foot, I have a zipper foot. It's really narrow. It would work, but this tape is so wide, I don't have to worry about it. So the risk of doing the shortening of a zipper is that you might not shorten the left front and the right front perfectly. So you need to make sure that you kind of fiddle with that sometimes. And a lot of times it's really good to shorten it before you even attach it to the garment. That way you can spend time kind of getting it evenly across and then not have to worry about it. Then you're just sewing it in and it's not such a big deal. All right, so I want to make sure, I have to still set the hood on, right? So I need seam allowance where I can actually sew with my serger. A little bit dicey because this is going to push my serger away. But if you're using the twill tape, you don't have to use the serger, and that's why it worked with my nephew. So these are kind of things to think about. You know, you might want to shorten this a little bit more if you're like, I really want to make sure that my serger, you know, if you have a little bit of a gap above your zipper at up to the neckline, that's okay. It's not a big deal. Most people aren't zipping it all the way up anyway, right? And if you need to make sure that your wide serger foot can get through there, that might be more calming on your nerves. And I'm a firm believer in feeling comfortable so you feel confident. So like I said, if this goes all the way through, yeah, it actually works, right? There's my zipper, but that is still too long because remember there's a seam allowance here and you can't sew through the stop. And if you just cut this off or cut it off here, you have these little coils which are super sharp and scratchy. You can always, if you already did clip it, you can maybe sew a piece of ribbon across the top of it and then treat it like it's part of the zipper. All right, so let's see. I'm going to shorten mine to about right there. And when I pre-shorten my zipper before I sew it to the garment, I just bend it back like this and then sew across this tape in this seam allowance of the tape right here. And then you can, and you can even do it with contrast thread so you can see it, just then you can remove it later if you want. It's okay if it's in there forever, but the contrast thread kind of helps you keep track of where you sewed it. I'm going to sew that again because I didn't backstitch right there. All right, so then there is my zipper, right that. Can you see that? So there's this little, there's the little fold of fabric. So I just yank it over. All right, and so now let's look at matching our fronts to one another, because no matter how hard I try, I always have to resew this. This is why I blinded myself sewing my nephews. Because I had to take out like 4 inches of top stitching because I didn't check. All right. You know what's great about this is that my sister is going to be able to find her kid on any playground wearing this. Okay, so I look at all of these seams right here, and then I draw across with whatever it takes. Yes, exactly, Sydney. Yeah, because I think it's Christine, right, from, I think her Instagram's Winter Stitches. She used to be in the chat a lot, and now she has like 2 small kids or 3 small kids, so, or maybe she's pregnant, I can't remember, I don't know her. And so she said, oh yeah, you know, like I did that once and now it's scratching my kiddo's chin, and I've been there. So, such a bummer. All right, so we're gonna mark this on the tape here. So we're also gonna shorten this side to match that side. So that we're, you know, ready to sew it. All right, it's a big chunky zipper pull for a kid's sweatshirt, but there are a billion different zippers in the world, and sometimes you just cannot find exactly what you're looking for. All right, so that's the top of my pocket, and this is my waistband. And if you can do it on the back side and stay accurate, I'm just using a soapstone pencil. It's soapstone, so it's not lead. It's not chalk. Okay, so there we go. And then this is like right here. You can see like, because this is stretchy right here, you can, I don't know if you can see it, but can you see that you can see my zipper seam allowance right there? That's okay. We're going to fix that because we're going to pull this down and we're going to top stitch it. And we're going to put this tail in here just like that. And we're just going to top stitch it down. It could be like lined up a tiny bit better, but it's okay. Yeah, exactly. It is really simple. I think the trickiest thing is right now, like, doesn't that look perfectly across from one another? I swear, once I sew it, it's just not gonna, for some reason, you know? So. All right. So this right here, let's measure this amount right here. We're going to measure this amount right here above where the zipper is sewn. It's 5/8, and we're going to mark that on this side because we know it's a stretchy opening, so you can kind of, you know, bend things to your will a little bit, which is kind of nice, right? All right, so we have, this is actually where that zipper is going to end. All right, so let's pre-sew this little folded back thing here. Just like that, so we don't have to worry about it. Get rid of this tail. No one's gonna see that, it's in the seam allowance. You probably can't see it at all, even though I did it in navy blue thread. Get rid of these little tails so they don't come back to haunt me. And usually by now also I've top stitched this side, so we're going to do that too. We don't have to worry about this side. We're good here. All right. This little serger tail, we can cut that. That's going to go into a neck seam. That'll be fine. So there's two ways to top stitch this. If you want, you can actually like kind of blouse this over, and then your zipper would be hidden. I'm going to recommend, if this is the first time you do that, don't do that. It's harder. It's harder because getting this to be even and making it look good is a little tricky. And the world is used to seeing an exposed zipper, so I don't think you have to do that to yourself. That is my personal opinion. All right, so I'm going to pull this apart, and I'm just going to keep my top stitching nice and even. And, you know, like when you're getting to these thick seams where the pocket is, make sure that you're staying straight. You know, make sure it looks pretty good. Nope, it won't. And that's such a good question, because if you've ever used a non-jean or trouser zipper to put in your pants, like if you use a dress zipper in your pants, those will ride down. Not all of them will, but there's a lot of them that don't have that, and that has to do with what's in the zipper pull, because it's got a stop in it. Because see right now, see how, you know, this is sitting here like this? It can't pull down. Whereas if you ever see me sew with the zipper by the yard, that will. That has no ability to catch itself. All right, so I'm going to take this little thread tail and let's make it a little smaller. I'm going to bend it into the seam allowance here. I should have stitched it first to make it easier on myself. I'm definitely doing things kind of cutting corners. All right, so I'm going to use my awl to kind of pull this and line it all up. There we go. So it looks nice and clean. See? Simple, like you keep it simple, right? All right, so now we're ready. Yeah, I think you could do that, Sydney. Absolutely. If you can iron onto the knit, because I can't with the polar fleece, but I could on my nephew's. His is actually a cotton, mostly cotton fleece. Super stretchy though. That stuff's yummy. I got that from, I got both of these from Stone Mountain and Daughter. This one you can iron a little bit on there, but you don't really need to. Polar fleece is actually pretty stable, But yeah, what I would do is use like a tricot or something, and use that Angela Wolf little tip where she rotary knifes one long edge, the edge that's gonna like maybe show on the right side, because it hides it. It hides where you fused it, so you don't have like a fuse line. The only thing, Sydney, you have to kind of worry about is that if it's such a wide piece, you might see a bit of it here. So try and keep it really narrow or inside your seam allowance if you can. I think that there are iron-on narrow trim stabilizers for things like this. Okay, so here we go. Let's do our other side. Let's see how I do. I'm a little nervous. All right, so we're gonna line up this end down here, and then we're gonna make sure that the line that we marked lines up to the places that we're planning. My machine is gonna argue with me. It's gonna wanna push things and shift things around. It's thick stuff, you know. I don't usually pin along the seam. I used to. When I sewed, yeah, exactly. You could try that, Sydney. Maybe just try it on some scrap and see what you think. I'm really liking using those on knits lately. Not those, but like something, like a fusible. Like I've been using that tricot. I'm really liking it, and it was really hard not to do it on the waistband for this, but it would have been overkill. It would have felt nice, but it really doesn't need it. It feels just like, it feels the same weight. This stuff is just so lightweight and stretchy that I was like, oh, it's so rolly. So I don't usually pin my pins parallel. I did this for like a really long time. Really long time. This was like one of my hardest habits to break. You should always pin like perpendicular if you're going to. But it's so much easier to pull your pins out when they're like this, so I get it. But trust me, I've sewn so much that these will get stuck in your feed dogs or your presser foot, depending on what kind you have. And that's a kind of an expensive fix sometimes. So, all right, so we're gonna line this zipper up here. And you know, remember, you're focused on the tape being lined up there. So let all that hang off. Don't worry about it. We're gonna cut it off. We're not gonna cut it off yet though, because we don't know if we need to make it a little bit longer or whatever. All right, so now if you want to make yourself feel better, I'm gonna tell you that you pinned it right, and it's all gonna line up when you do this right now. But when you go to sew it, it's still gonna get off. So, and that's okay. All right, it's really up here that I'm most wanting to kind of nail it. So I'm just kind of looking at that. All right, let's just sew it in and see what we got. As long as we don't top stitch it, it's all negotiable, right? All right, we're gonna line this up. Try and maintain the same seam allowance you did on the other seam, because that can make things look a little bit off if maybe one was a little smaller. Because we're talking about such a small amount of seam allowance that you're doing on your zipper. If you did that one like a fat 1/4 of an inch and this one a small 1/4 of an inch, they're gonna be an 1/8 of an inch different from each other. Oh yeah, Sydney, that looks really cute. That was the thing I was gonna tell you guys, is that Cashmerette is having a collaborative promotion with Tilly and the Buttons. It was in their newsletter because Tilly and the Buttons has done some inclusive sizing, and so they're promoting it. I really wish I was doing this from the other side so that I could see my serging. I might have to fix some of this. All right, so okay. Don't you mess around with me. All right, so let's, first I'm gonna see if my serging is showing anywhere. All right, now we're gonna check and see how well it lined up. So it's not really attaching the zipper that's hard. It's getting everything to line up. So that is definitely within tolerance right there, especially if I top stitch it going from the top down, it would push it and make it look better. That one, oh my gosh, did I actually do it? Wow, I actually did. Yay! Oh, really, Sydney? Oh, interesting. It's not a secret now. All right, so let's put our tail of our serger in the seam allowance this time, make it easy on myself, and then we'll trim all this off so that when I turn it back to top stitch, oh no, I did it, gosh dang it. I did this on my nephews too. Can I get this, can I get that out? No, because I'm freaking blind. I always do that. I pull it to this side when you want to pull it to this side. Oh my God. Let's see if I can get this. Oh, I think I can. I couldn't on my nephews. Okay, okay, good. Okay, good. Pull it to this side. It'll be all hidden in there. It'll look professional. This is sewing, like securing things like this on your knits is kind of a game changer for a lot of people who sew a lot of knits. Things like that, and top stitching down seams that are exposed. Not exposed, but they could be like a seam that goes all the way through. Yeah, so maybe they're helping them out, and because I don't know this for sure, but I have a feeling that they've Cashmeret's consulted for a lot of folks, but I don't know that for sure. Okay, let's see up here. All right, we're kind of good. All right, so let's top stitch this down. Oh, I need to back stitch because that's the last seam. And make sure we have the seam allowance going the right way. And when you're doing stuff like this, I also recommend pulling your fabric kind of perpendicular out away, not like this, because that's how you get those little torque lines in your top stitching. I'm totally famous for doing that to myself because I rush. So I'm kind of pushing like this, keeping my fabric, and my fingers are doing kind of a lot to kind of stabilize everything. And this also helps me keep my stitching really nice and parallel to the zipper because I'm keeping there's no slack right here. I'm keeping it nice and flat. And it's so nice to be able to grab the coil of the zipper. And sometimes when I'm going really fast, I just leave my fingers there and it just runs along like this. All right, so when you get up here, make sure that we turn this back, you know, nice and straight. I don't need to backstitch that because it'll get caught in the next seam. Give it a once over. See, this is where my nephews went kind of awry, and I was like under my like big box light over there. Ray! Oh my goodness. Thank you. I did, Nicole, but I wanted to try it. Oh, see, look, it did move it up. See that? See that? See, I should have gone from the top down. Okay, Sydney. Oh, good luck. You got this. I wanted to challenge myself, Nicole. Only 4 of us, big room. Okay, you got this. You got new clothes. You're feeling spicy. Okay, so that right there, it felt like I was pushing it totally fine, and what it is that the thickness of this seam right here is so much that it did that anyway. So we'll just try and take out those few stitches there. Boy, at least with my navy blue, I can actually see the stitch, because man, I could not. Wait, it's this one, right? Yeah, make sure I'm not taking out the seam. Take out a few stitches here and we'll fix it. Where is it? Where's one? See, this is where my invention that I will totally tell the world about, because I really hope someone does it. I want a seam ripper with a light on it and a vacuum. Where's the, I want to pull it. There we go. All right, look at that. It's already relaxed. So let's do it from this side, and we'll go down. Spread this apart so I can stitch right where I've already been. Push my seam allowance. All right, that looks better. Honestly, that one looks like it could use some fussing, but I'm not going to fuss with it. I feel like when you're that close, sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie. Right, exactly. Right, Nancy? I know, I've seen them with lights too. I feel like I tried one and I was like, that's not bright enough. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we have just our hood and our sleeves left. So let's see what's next. It's the hood. All right. I think this is the sleeves. So we're going to install some eyelets. We might need to make an offering to the eyelet and sewing fairy. I'm getting my hammer. We can move this out of the way. I don't know why, but this table is so much more fragile than any other industrial machine table I've had. And it pains me that I have this little ding. You can't see it right now because it's so bright. It's brighter on camera than it is in real life. Okay, so here's the twill tape I'm going to be using. I'm kind of thinking about making it smaller because my nephew's was so wide. But I'm wondering how hard that'll be to sew on. Maybe I'll just use a bigger seam allowance. All right, so I did a test eyelet the other day, and this is the one thing I found was, can you see? You can see how thick it is. Like, look at how thick the gap is. And it also made me go, okay, don't make the whole size hole they tell you to. Just make a little bit of hole if you're doing something stretchy like this fleece. Because I do have this eyelet die. Oh, I forgot to tell you one major thing I did wrong yesterday. This piece is cut on the fold. All right, 5 out of 4. I don't know why you would have made this tiny little piece cut on the fold. That's the only thing I'm going to call you out on, though. So you need 2 of these on the fold, and that's the fold, not the curve. So that's the fold edge. Not 4 of these, just 2 on the fold. Sorry about that. I saw this, and I think I saw it twice. Like, I saw that, and every time I looked at it, I was thinking that they were both. Right, Nancy? We do count on her. She could start her own, you know, like tool and gadget review channel. So this draw cord I'm using is quite thick. And one thing I learned when I made my nephew's was that it's got a sleeve on it. I got this from Waywack, and it says it's 1/4 inch. And you know, it is 1/4 inch, but it is a freaking fat 1/4 inch. Like, this is solid. So what I learned was that it has a sleeve, and you can make it smaller. This is the sleeve I pulled off my nephew's jacket, and so look at, you see how it's flat? So you could use this as your draw cord. It would be nice and soft, and I feel like I've seen sweatshirts like that with this like collapsed knitted tube. I'm just going to use the regular stuff because it is traditional. All right, so we need to, I have a little scrap piece of fabric somewhere. We don't really need this quite yet. Oh, here it is. Oh, well, this will work. I'm going to, instead of using interfacing, I did fuse interfacing on my nephews and it was really great. But on this, I'm going to just use a scrap piece of the fleece because of that gap I showed you. I'm going to make it kind of small. I'm going to get 2 of them out of this piece here. Okay. So I have my anvil, which is a piece of plastic, and it's got this little like groove right there. And I have this piece here. And then for the eyelet, you have 2 pieces or grommet. You know, it's usually a grommet when it's in a heavy duty application and an eyelet when it's not. But technically they're both eyelets and grommets. There is, I'm trying to find, these all are kind of like funky in my opinion. So this one is shorter. The tube coming up from the eyelet is shorter than say this one here. Can you see the difference between those? So this is one set. This is the right side. This is the wrong side. All right, Carrie, good luck. Have a good day. Oh, that's awesome, Nancy. I would love that. Yeah, right, Mafio? And I did that on my nephews. I totally agree. I just don't feel comfortable interfacing it with fusible because it's synthetic. So that's why I'm just going to use a piece of fleece. I think you're right. Thanks, Carrie. All right, so let's find another set. I have trouble. This is like probably a cheap Dritz set, and honestly, yeah, it could look a little better. Let's see. These 2 look the same as right sides, and they just all look a little bit like the metal looks a little different from one side to the other. All right, so we have our hood. We literally marked this. I was going to say, we marked this. Where is it? So I think that if your eyelets, like on my nephews, they were kind of on the large side. You need to make sure that your hem is going to enclose where the eyelet is being sewn. All right, so there's a mark on the pattern. I think that's a great starting point. So let's say I put my eyelet here, right? Now when I hem this, will I enclose the eyelet? And I will. But the other thing I want you to think about is, can you get your presser foot past the eyelet right here? Right, so let's see. This is where this is on this side. Can you get your presser foot by the eyelet? And I really couldn't. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit more and do my hem allowance a little bit bigger. I had to have a certain size eyelet to be able to fit this draw cord. I don't know why I just pulled that pin out. I need this as a reference. They need to also be the same from left to right. So it doesn't look wonky. Dang it. Dang it. I know the feeling, Nancy. I have seen that that woeful question in a video group I'm in. They're like, it's been doing this for like 17 hours and it's only 2% uploaded. And then when she showed a screenshot of her internet, I was like, oh yeah, I feel her pain, man. All right, so I'm gonna go maybe to the left of that. So if I did it here, and I centered that there. This is why I didn't cover stitch my nephew's hood, because I couldn't get my cover stitch by the eyelet. His eyelets were pretty big. They were the only 2 black eyelets I had that would fit the draw cord. So many things, so many variables. I had no idea this draw cord was going to be so chunky. I think this will work. I kind of want to go just a little bit further in. All right. Okay, so I've decided where I want that. I'm still staying the same distance away from the neck edge. I'm just moving it a little bit further into the hood so that when I turn back the hem, the eyelet is centered and I have enough room to do my hem. My machine can get by it. All right, so I'm gonna put a little nip right there. And I think that if you just do a tiny, tiny little hole, and I'm going to do it with this too. Put this on the back. Put the taller posted eyelet from the right side, stretch that hole around the post. I'm going to do my interfacing too. Yeah, extra long shoelaces. That's so smart, Lydia. I'm going to tell my sister that. I was thinking the exact same thing because I didn't buy the aglets. I think it was, who reminded me of the name of that yesterday? Because they were all kind of like, I don't know. I don't think a kid would like them. They were a little bit too she-she. But if you want things like that, like at the ends, Maker's Fabric has a really great selection. Okay, so then that does go on this one, right? Fit that on there. Wish me luck because I haven't done it on this fabric. All right, so I'm doing this from the wrong side. And the eyelet fits in the little grooves of this anvil, which is really nice because the one I had for my nephew, I didn't have an anvil that would fit those. So it was a bit dicey. All right, so I'm about to pound, so you might want to turn down the volume. And I'm going to go for it. So now, this is the one thing I want you to comfort yourself with. No one's going to see the back side of this eyelet. It's inside the casing. All right. It gets a little bit of an oval now. But there we go. It's okay. Like, look at that little bent spot there from the wrong side, you know? These things are so cheap. I'm just gonna... Okay. I think that extra fabric was a good idea. It really filled up that space between the two eyelets. And we can still get our draw cord through that hole, which is essential. All right, so let's do our other one. Yeah, absolutely, Nancy. Yeah, the shoelaces are much thinner. In fact, this is much, this is exactly what this is. This like over sheath is shoelace. That's what this is. The stuff I pulled off of the draw cord. I knew it reminded me of something, and that's it. Thank you, Lydia. All right, so then we have, this is the right side. So stretch that over the hole. I was like, okay, I don't want to stretch this because I don't want the fabric to look stretched over this hole. And then I just saw that it would just pop right out. So if you were doing something like I did the Kelly Anorak, right? Or the utility jacket, if you were doing eyelets for a draw cord on those fabrics, especially the utility jacket fabric, which is a waterproof fabric, This, you would want to use a die to cut the hole, because that way, because you can't stretch the fabric over the hole. With the linen of the Kelly Anorak, that would have stretched, you know? All right, so let's stretch the little facing piece. It would be a classic Saremy thing to do, to only put a facing piece on one of these, and then I'd be so sad. Okay. Get on there. It's a little fiddly. But it's less fiddly than like snaps, funnily enough. All right, and then you have your like rounded post thing. I make this nice and flat. There we go. The anvil is just plastic, so it's kind of lightweight. It moves around. Ready? You might want to turn me down for a second. Oh, that one's a little munched. But like I said, remember, this is on the inside. This metal is so soft. I don't know if I can fix that. Oh, that is so sad looking. It looks better on the wrong side. Oh man, look at that. I wonder if I can kind of do a little bit of surgery here with this thing. I know I should have bought, I thought I had eyelets. I should have bought some new ones. I'm going to leave it. All right, so make sure you get eyelets that are actually up to date. I don't need you. All right, I'm going to move all this away here. Okay. Oh, and you. That's what I need to move. Do you, Terry? If a quarter... Really? And so you use a 1/4 inch Phillips head screwdriver for eyelets and snaps. I don't even know how I would do that. I mean, I have a 1/4 inch. It's not Phillips. I'm going to see if I can kind of bend that into shape later. The other thing maybe I can rotate it around and then the draw cord would kind of hide it. All right, we're going to attach the hood. It probably doesn't look so bad on your screen, but look, it's a little bit wonky. This one looks pretty good. All right, so do I think I can get my cover stitch by that? I think I do. All right, so we'll use the cover stitch on that. And we're going to overlock the hood, and I'm going to cover stitch the hem. Oh, interesting. I might check that out. Would you switch? Hi, Jan. Oh, interesting. Did you mount it on like the ceiling? This is so bright. Let me just tone that down for you a little bit. Cam snaps. What are cam snaps? There's so many different varieties, and I feel like I'll get good at one, and then I'll order something, and it comes different. All right, so I'm just overlocking the round portion of this hood. If you're doing the lined hood, I'm pretty sure you sew your lining together, sew your outer hood together, and then you hem. You either sew them into each other at the center front, or you hem the hood over it. Either way, you're going to have still a top stitching line because you need the casing for the drawstring. Oh, that's perfect. What I like about the projector is the amount of space, not having all the printed patterns I have, because I have like 150 printed patterns right now, and yeah, not happy about it. All right, so So one of the things you could do to make this a little easier to cover stitch this is you could overlock this edge and then turn it back and then cover stitch from this side. In fact, I'll show you that because I think that that's a nice easy way to do the cover stitch. So I'm going to overlock this edge. And we're just going to do a fake cover stitch. I mean a fake flat lock. Oh, okay, okay. I know what you're talking about, Angela. Those things are fiddly. They're really small. I had to do those a long time ago. I haven't had to use children's snaps in a really long time, though, thankfully. They're not heavy duty enough for a lot of things I do now. All right, and so now I'm going to fold this over, and I'm going to trim away some of this facing here so it's out of the way. We'll do that on this side too. All right, and then this is going to put the cover stitch on this side exposed. It kind of looks cool, you know, looks kind of sporty. And then you don't have to worry about if you're catching it. So yes, I did lose a little bit of my hood depth because I made my hem bigger. I'll have to be honest, this hood looks gigantic, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But you might want to check it out if there's, you know, if you're going for a specific look, specific size. Line up my hood seam. I love how the serger goes over thicknesses so easily. And I have my cover stitch set to the wider needle setting. And I just have one needle just off the edge of the overlocking here and the other one just lined up because that's about how wide it is. It's about the width of my serger, which is kind of nice. Okay, I'm near my eyelet again. You gotta remember you got that eyelet. You don't want it to push your presser foot away, and it's trying to right now. One thing that's good about these this one at least, is it has a variable, or no, that's not what it's called. What's it called when, so I have these different pieces of my presser foot, so they're all moving up and down. So there you go, and that's what it looks like on this side. It's so funny. Oop, jeez. What did I just hit? What was that? Cutting mat. The cover stitch is ASMR for sure, right? I love the sound of the cover stitch. So there we go. All right, now let's put the hood on, and I'm gonna use my single needle. The reason we can do that is because I'm using twill tape. ASMR, it stands for autonomous sensory. It just means it sounds nice. So there's a whole genre of YouTube and live streaming that is ASMR. And what it is, it's usually someone making sounds that are really pleasing, and I'm forgetting the 4 letters, but it also, if it's done correctly and you're susceptible, you'll get like goosebumps and kind of a prickly sensation because it just kind of, yeah, autonomous sensory meridian response. That's it. Yes, exactly. Yeah, see, she even included that tingling sensation. So they'll do things like squish clay, and they have extremely high functioning microphones. They'll tap nails, they'll whisper, things like that. And we just joke around about it here because like ironing is so ASMR, like just listening to someone iron and the steam, it's just like so soothing and kind of nice background. And that's why I do some of those sewing ASMR videos where I don't talk, I just sew something. You can just have it on in the background. It's just a funny thing, Margaret. I play chicken with this needle. All right. Let's see here. All right, so since I'm doing I just noticed my needle came off right there a little bit. It's still secured. Oh, I'm going to put my draw cord in. No, yeah, I'm going to put my draw cord in now. I'm going to use my loop turner. See, this is where my loop turner is superior than that one I can't figure out. All right, so I didn't see any lengths for the draw cord in the instructions. Actually, I'm just gonna leave that. So I'm kind of just eyeballing it, to be honest. So I'm gonna, because they can always shorten it, I'm just gonna make it a little longer than what I think. I have 12 yards of it, and I'm gonna take off this sheath that I was telling you about is on this draw cord, so it makes it less bulky. Because I'm gonna tie mine in a knot at the end, so I really don't want it to be as bulky as this. And I can still use this shoelace for one sometime too. All right, and then I'm gonna use my loop turner. I'm going to go in the eyelet all the way through the other side. Through the seam. And then out this hole here. I'm doing this before the hood's on only because it's a little less fiddly. You don't have to do it now. I'm going to hook that to my loop turner and let's just hope it stays on there because it's such an open weave, you know. I'm just going to try and get it out the hole as soon as possible so I can grab it. There we go. Wouldn't that be nice if you could do that on when you lose it? You could actually. All right. I'm going to tie a super tight knot. And then I like to cut it like a little pom-pom. Like I sit there and I trim it and I round it, the little edges here, because it's fun. It's a little long. Well, that's okay though. They can cut it shorter. Okay. Have you guys ever made pom-poms? They're really kind of tricky. I feel like you'll spend all this time making the pom-pom, and then when you're at the very end, it just all falls apart because you can never make them tight enough, you know? But they're really fun. All right, so we're gonna attach this. So if you aren't using the twill tape, you could use your serger. Just be careful of your eyelet and your zipper here, remember, which I haven't even, I haven't trimmed this. I'm kind of rethinking that now. It would have been nice to tuck this tail into the top stitching down here. Why didn't I think of that? You don't really want to, you can cut this off, but you're going to have that little raw zipper edge, you know, and I'm just thinking what if it would have been that one of the ways you could finish your front zip opening, which would be really nice. Where'd the twill tape go? Where's the twill tape? We know it's here. Oh, it's probably in the eyelet thing. Yeah. you could do something like this. This is another way to combat a scratchy zipper. You could have attached twill tape, something narrower than this. Even this folded in half would be better, right? So when you sewed the zipper to the jacket, you could have then, while this is not top stitched down, attach the twill tape there. And then when it's pressed back, top stitch it down. And then that way, when you're up here at the zipper, you could have enclosed the raw end of the zipper in there. I'm going to take this out a little bit and fiddle with it right now before we finish this, because I would like to do something a little nicer than what I have going on here for the zipper finish. And this is going to give you another option too. Let's see. I am blind. Let's see here. I'm so glad I didn't backstitch. Makes it a little easier. It's so hard when you're taking out stitches near serging, you know, because you don't want to nick that serging stitch. You also don't want to nick your tape of your zipper, because that stuff, man, it's got a mind of its own and it just unravels kind of like crazy. All right, so let's look at this. I focused a lot on making sure that you don't have a scratchy zipper at the neckline, but you still can have a scratchy zipper if you're not careful, because yours might be much longer than mine that you're trying to shorten. So let's give some more options here. I'm thinking about it. I am taking out the top stitching. There we go. Okay. So now, what do I want to do here? Because I could just cut this off, right? But I still have this little extra zipper. Now I'm about to do this, like have a neckline seam. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe this wide tape would be handy if, right, I'm doing this and that seam, and then we're going to press it down. I am going to include mine in there, but what if you can't? You could, and say your stop is like way out here, like you have this really long tail. So when you cut that off, I would definitely consider finishing this front edge with a piece of binding or twill tape. It's awkward to use. Is it very bright? Bernina has the best seam ripper, hands down. When you get a new Bernina, the seam ripper that comes with it is the sharpest seam ripper ever. I remember the last time I bought a Bernina, I was like, does it come with a seam ripper? And she said it does. Everyone loves the seam ripper. I'm like, yeah, it's the best seam ripper. I just remembered it from my mom. My mom's Bernina was so old, and her seam ripper was still the best. I don't want to put twill tape on mine, and it's mainly because I'd have to remove all this top stitching, which is not appealing to me right now. But that's what I would suggest. I would suggest using some sort of twill tape or binding. You don't have to worry about the fact that this isn't stretchy, because you've already put a non-stretchy item in here with the zipper. So you kind of have that option of doing some sort of, you know, woven fabric type of finish right here, because it's fixed. So if you attach something here to the seam allowance, right, before you have top stitched it down, and then bend this over and then stitch that down, you could enclose this scratchy edge of your zipper. I like that idea. I don't like this, right? That's not okay. This is the one I took out so far. I think that's my best bet right now, is to just bend this back. And I don't like that. I don't know why I didn't think of this. This is so funny. I was so focused on something else. And then when I do my neckline and pull this down and top stitch, I'm going to be going so close to that right there that I'm wondering now if maybe leaving this going through the neckline would have been a better solution because I'm using twill tape. We could do a whole stream on this kind of stuff. I love this kind of stuff. So if I left this up here and this was my edge, and then I did my neck seam, it would be past this stop. And then I could put the twill tape on. I think in my case, that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take this out. I know we're almost done. This won't take me long. And it'll be nicer for mine. Because I'm using twill tape. I like the idea of the twill tape because I don't really like the way necklines look on a hoodie unless it's enclosed. All right, so where's my, what stitch is holding me up here? Is it this one? Is it you? See, that light sounds so nice right now. It's so much brighter on the, I should look on the, I can't though, there's a delay. Oh no, there's not a delay on mine. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. What's the moral of the story? Try and get a zipper the right length. Okay, but sometimes you just can't. Like, I bought zippers specifically for this project and I still couldn't find them the right length, so. Let's take out a few more top stitching stitches here. All right. Stop it. Oh my gosh, there we go. I'm not going to backstitch. Shoot, I went too far. Oh, okay, good. I didn't. Okay, I thought I went too far, and then you get that little tuck because you didn't remove enough top stitching. It's the worst. All right, let's put the top stitching back in. Where is it? There it is. All right. Let's do my other side real quick. Sometimes it's just easier to grab it with the awl, huh? All right. So I have a new pattern coming out probably today or tomorrow. Depends on how quick I get those photographs of those other bags. But, and I'm going to sew it next week. That's my live stream next week, is to sew that bag as a sew along. I should probably wait a little longer, but I'm going to do the 5 out of 4 Ryan Raglan the week afterward during the promo of the pattern. I'm not sure it was, yeah, whatever. Okay. Got all these threads here. Come on. All right, let me get a few more top stitch threads out without nicking my serging. This is when you wish you used 2 different thread colors. I almost used black serger, but I think the navy blue looks a lot better. I just think it's funny that I wound 2 bobbins for this when I'm barely even using my single needle. Okay. Almost done. All right. Get rid of some of these threads here. Put this back on. And I want to see where this one lands. Get rid of some of these threads. Okay. Place my top stitching. Make sure all these little loose threads are gone and taut. Like, make sure they're like taut in there so that they don't come out a little further. All right. Okay. So now I'm just going to look at my neckline and see if it lines up straight across from itself, and then smooth it out if it's not. Oh, it's ending in such an awkward spot. I'm gonna trim this. But I know that there's that stop right there that I don't want to have to cut through. I think that's lined up. All right. As long as I stick to the seam allowance, I think I'm going to be good. All right, let's put the hood on, and then I'm going to be really careful with that little spot there. I have my twill tape. So I really played around with when I attached the twill tape of my nephew's by doing this, like wrapping it around this edge here like that. The problem with this is it's very thick, and what happens is when you are done sewing it, right, you have this folded back twill tape around the edge, right? And you have to stitch this twill tape down to the neckline. And you don't want this folded edge here to get too close to the zipper teeth, because you need the head of the zip to be able to pull past, right? You need it to go above there. So I think what I did was, I did this kind of clever thing where I turned it, and then I think I folded it like this at an angle. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sew this on all in one. The hood's right sides together to the neckline. We'll put a few pins in at the spots where we know it needs to go, like the center back. Which way did I push this seam? So I pushed this seam on the hood this way. I'll be consistent so it's not twisted. Yeah, I have to stretch a tiny bit because my hood hem for the casing is a little bigger now. All right. So, whoops, that's not even pinned on there. So this is one area where you want your necklines to match going across. I'm using my single needle machine since I'm using a cotton twill tape, and it makes it not stretchy anyway. Won't matter. I can sew through the coil. Now if you're using those big tooth plastic zippers, be really careful, or a brass zipper. You technically really can't sew through those without, you know, avoiding them. Whereas the machine can go through the coil no problem. I love coil zips for that reason. I'm going to press my shoulder seam towards the back. I'm going to line up that raw edge a little better there. There's no reason to serge this unless you're maybe using a fabric that needs it, but in all likelihood, if you're using a knit, knits don't fray or unravel. You don't really have to worry about it. Maybe if you were doing something like a linen knit. Linen knits are kind of squirrely. Put my hand under there, and then I pull the body neckline to match better. My hood is curling a tiny bit there, so it probably looks uneven on the screen, but you see how this little, I get this little curl there. It's just probably because of like the little undulation on the cut edge there. Oh my gosh. I was like, what? Look at that, I didn't make it through on this side either. Those stubby little pins, they're nice and stout, but they don't like a whole lot of thickness. It would be nice to have a shoulder notch, so you don't have to hold it for so far. All right. Just lining up my edge there along the neckline, making sure all my raw edges line up. You can see my shoulder seam was a little bit off there, so that's why I'm going to the smallest spot so it matches. Now we're getting to the center front neck. This pin is useless right now. And you may need to re-sew your hood to the neck seam to get them to be lined up across from one another at the center front there. So kind of, you know, think about that right now. Don't backstitch too much, you know, like don't overdo it. Try and think about, like, you can even look at how you started the other side, like, was I accurate in my seam allowance? Like, what did I do there, you know? And then maybe do the same thing on this side. Set yourself up for success. Remember, you know, be careful going through your teeth of your zipper if you have to. All right, so let's get rid of some of these crazy threads here. That's that little spot that was a little misaligned. And this one. No need to really clip the neckline. Could if you really feel the need to. All right, so let's look at our neckline and see how it's matching. It's like a little vest right now. Doing the sleeves is pretty easy too. That's all we have left. Oh, we have the thumb hole. What time is it? Oh my gosh. Okay. How's that neck seam match? Pretty good. This seam's gonna get pushed down and then top stitched. What it looks like to me, because this is bright green and this is navy blue, is that this is coming further this way, but it's the color of the fabric, so it's kind of an optical illusion. All right, and so what did I work on with my nephews? I kind of played around with folding this right here. So let's cut this off here. I'm just gonna leave myself like an inch tail right here to deal with. And you're gonna press this down into the body of the garment like that. And so I played around with folding this, and then I think no wait, how did I do that? I did something kind of clever to kind of make the angle of this away from the zippered edge there. Yeah, so I pulled it up like this. So see how this edge here is angled, you know, like ideally, you know, it'd be like this, right? You could do that, but that's not gonna work here. So you kind of just need to pull it up. I think that's what I did. Is that what it was? Let's see. What do I want? What do I want? I mean, you could just fold it down, but then you have this very big, thick lump there. All right, so let's trim this. I'm gonna finally get rid of the stop of my zipper right there and just trim this little corner there and kind of get rid of some of this bulk. Let's do it at the other side too. Now we have this all secure. Our zipper can't come off the edge. I'm not trimming the tape, just the seam. Oh, I cut that really close there. Holy moly. I'm gonna reinforce that. What the heck? Oof. It's okay, but wow. I almost made that really hard on myself. I mean, you could just turn this back and stitch it down, push it down and stitch it down, but I'm fiddling because I feel like there's a nicer way to do this. I'm trying to discover it right now. You could just tuck this under, maybe hand stitch it. All right, I'm gonna definitely fold this back on itself and sew it. I could have done this when I started, but I wanted to give myself some options. See, so I folded it back on itself. Fold this and see how nice and clean that is. My problem is when you pull this down to top stitch it, it's really close to the zipper teeth, and so when your zipper pull is going past it, it might interfere. But you know, a lot of folks don't mind hand stitching, so what you could do is top stitch this down and then maybe just pull this over a little bit while you're top stitching it down, and then even use some hand stitches to kind of secure it further. All right. So now let's fold this one back on itself as well. I kind of want to check my neck seams again. It's kind of one of those things like forever hold your peace, you know, once you get past this point. So you can't really change anything. All right, so I just need to sew right where I sewed this one before. This is the one I cut really close. I was a little nervous about that one. Where did I sew it? Right there? Okay, I'm using my awl to kind of keep it snug against the edge of the zipper. Oops. Get rid of all these bits and bobs here. This is where my industrial machine is kind of a champ because it has a lot of pressure, and I can even crank it down a little bit more with my presser foot. And then that way it really holds things where I'm sewing them, and it kind of acts as a helping hand. The pressure of the presser foot. All right. So now we're going to make sure that we pull this seam apart. So this is the hood and this is the body. And we're gonna press this twill tape towards the body. Now this is something that your hand's gotta be kind of strong for, because you really want this top stitching to be nice and even around the neck edge, right? So what can happen is if you're not too firm with pulling these apart, what'll happen is it'll get a little bit like, you'll get a little bit like a little pleat here, some slack, right? If I can pull this back at an angle and then do it. What if I pulled that down and did it? I'm just still kind of like coming up with ideas. What if I did that? What if I pulled, so here's my little folded back twill tape, right? What if I did this? take this little edge and pull it down a little bit so I get this little triangle going across. It reminds me of like, you know, making a newspaper hat. And then folding it down. It's very thick right there. I don't like that either. I feel like I've done this a different way that I like, and I just can't, it's not clicking. I've never done twill tape though, so maybe that's why. All right, I'm gonna stitch it down. I'm gonna make sure I pull the turn back part kind of taut inside here so that it stays away from the zipper. Make sure the draw cord stays out of the way if you've already put it in there like me. Use my awl. Now remember, this stitch shows on the right side. No pressure. But it is something to think about. All right, I got it in there. My needle's down. Always stop needle down. Pressing all this. Push any like seam allowance or threads inside there in this casing that we're stitching down. Ooh. My presser foot didn't like going past something just now. All right, there we go. The seam allowance is kind of pushing it away. Getting this nice and taut. No one's going to see the inside. What you're thinking about right now is the outside. You could trim your seam allowance down a little bit if you're feeling like it might sneak out of there. My twill tape's pretty wide. It's giving me kind of a free pass on that. I kind of made it a little narrower for my nieces. Maybe I should have not put my the presser down. There we go. My fingers are really pulling this apart. My hands are really strong. I, was a bag maker for 11 years, right? Doing stiffener and binding. That's one thing, the only workout I got was sewing bags. My upper body's strong, that's about it. All right, we're coming around the front. Now the thing we're thinking about right now, stop that, is that we want that stitching that we started off with, we want it to match the other side, right? That makes me nervous too. All right, so we're gonna pull this little turn back. It's kind of over rotated into the sweatshirt. And let's look at this on this side. It's kind of a little bit wider right there. I'm gonna use my awl to kind of tuck this tail in there. Maybe my finger actually, my finger might work. My awl can hold it. Oh yeah, this one's definitely a problem. It's partly because the presser foot, since it's coming towards me, it's pushing all these layers it wants to push it off the edge toward me, right? We don't want that to happen. We're telling it, no. This needs to line up inside the body of the hood, right where it's, parallel to, right? And the presser foot's like, yeah, but, just kind of massaging it, it kind of wanted to go off the edge, so I was kind of letting it. You're like, no. Okay, I don't think I got my back stitch right on top of my end there. There it is. Trim the threads. What's that thread there? And what's this thread? All right, let's see how it looks. Oh, let's trim this one. That's the new back stitch when I fixed it. I get rid of all these. I'm not allowed to look sometimes. I have a rule. I don't get to look till I've trimmed all my threads. Because the reason I do that is not to make me trim my threads. That's part of it. But the other part is to give it the best shot possible, looking fantastic, so I'm not too hard on myself too. All right, that looks pretty good. The green makes it look really wonky. Like the bright green here makes it look very asymmetrical compared to the navy blue. Just kind of a side effect of the print, All right, so let's put the sleeves on. think she's really going to love that. What's this thread here? Why do I have all these random threads? Oh, and let's look at my stitching around the neckline, because I did it wider than my nephew's. Looks pretty good. It's a little wide. If I'm being honest, it's a little wide. Remember, when it's being worn, it's going to look like this, right? It's going to look like that. Like on the outside. No one's going to see it. I like to give you these little things that kind of make you feel less stressed about it because A, she's probably going to lose this on the playground the first day and never see it again, right? And then B, the hood's going to flop over that seam we just sewed. The twill tape kind of makes it less, you know, loosey-goosey. All right, so let's do our little thumb hole cuffs. All right, so we have the 2 that were cut on the fold, and then we have the other 4. There's 2 of this and 2 of this. So each cuff gets 1 of these on the fold, and then 2 of these, and then 1 of the cuffs. There we go. All right, and so we're going to put this right sides together, the piece that was cut on the fold, and we're going to sew this rounded edge. Ooh, I want to see, do they change the... Hi, Patty, what? What are you laughing at? Oh, my label. You know, I didn't put it in my nephew's because I thought he might be like... That's a good point, though. I forgot my label. Let's see. I want to know this. Stretch just or serger. There's no seam, so it must be just the same 3/8. I didn't think my nephew would like that inside of his jacket. You know, my weird little face. Oh, it's so bright. Think I could put it anywhere here? I don't know. I could put it in the side seam. That's what I'll do. I'll put it on the side seam. Oh, losing other hair. Yeah, I know. My daughter had some very, she had good taste. It was really fun. And for a long time, what we would do is she asked for money towards Bowden. The kids' Bowden. People loved getting our hand-me-downs. Like, she would ask for her birthday. That's what she wanted, was Bowden clothes. And so I just remember like a couple times she had these pretty cool coats. Like, she saved up. Like, she was like, I want that coat. And then like one, you know, another little girl took, and she didn't have the guts to say, that's my jacket. Neither did I. So... And you know, how you see like school, like I used to drive by the school all the time and there'd be like 8 jackets hanging off the fence. And you know, when their parents drove by on their way home that day, they were like, ah, there's my kid's jacket. All right, so I'm gonna overlock these. All right, so this is the one that's on the fold. This is gonna be fiddly in my serger. You could use a stretch stitch too. Ooh, this is like little. That was easy. That's easy enough. There's one, and then let's do the other one. See, the starch worked really good on these pieces. I didn't think you had to heat activate it. Makes sense though. All right, and then now you're going to take these 2 and put 2 of these right sides together, and same thing. Oof, I don't like little pattern pieces. I feel kind of klutzy with them. When you're doing curves like this, it's good just to straighten out the curve the best you can. One more. So I get it under the presser foot get sewing, and then I straighten it out so I'm not too worried, because you know, the knife is ahead of the needle, so it's pretty hard to sew these if you can't straighten it out. Otherwise your knife's gonna cut into the curve before your needle even gets there. Okay, so go back over here. And I think I'm gonna top stitch these, or is it under stitch? I don't want to steer you guys awry here. Oops. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't gonna stitch it at all. I was like, oh. And so it's just right sides out and press, repeat. Oh, you don't. Oh, you don't have to. It just looks like it. The drawing was a little, okay, good. All right, so if you can press your fabric, like iron it, I would iron it. So we have this curve here. Can't see okay, so we have this one here. And then we have this little one that we folded in half. I'm gonna get my loop turner and turn it right side out. See, the other loop turner couldn't do that either. I'm never gonna let it go. All right, and so same thing. Ooh, this is a little fiddly piece, right? Okay. That goes with that one, and you're gonna do the same thing with these two. You know, the one thing I don't know is how the cuff lines up on the sleeve. Like, was there markings? Because we didn't see any markings. I remember because we talked about it. Line these up. I'm just kind of sliding it out with my hand, kind of finger pressing it. All right. Slide the cuff over the end of the sleeve. Just align one seam with the underarm seam on the sleeve. Thumb hole should be on the top of the sleeve. Top. What does that mean? The front? Maybe the front. Yeah. Okay. All right, so now take one pair of these. So take the fiddly one and the a little bit bigger one. Right? And oh, thread tail purgatory here. We're going to overlap this onto this other one here, and we're going to need to do it so that it matches the width of the cuff. So fold your cuff, okay? It's interesting because the picture makes it look like this piece is the same width as this one, but it's clearly not. And then you line this up. Why is mine so narrow? You saw the pattern piece. Where'd it go? Well, I showed it to you at the beginning. Remember that little pattern piece? Here it is. Yeah, so there's the line, and it says fold, and then there's the cut line. Sorry, it's so bright. That's not going to match that. Maybe I'm folding this wrong. No, I'm not folding this wrong. Oh, maybe I am folding this wrong. What? But remember, we cut that so that it would be, I was really careful about that. Where is it? Maybe I made a mistake with that. Let's see. Short sleeve cuff, long sleeve, thumb hole cuff. Yeah, that's it. That's how I cut it. But that doesn't work. I think that this piece is turned the wrong way. Because if it goes this way, look, it actually lines up. So let's see, we'll put that there. And we'll put this here. I don't know, you guys, what do you think? Let's look at the sleeve diameter. Oh, but that wouldn't work. Why is this bigger than my sleeve? Yeah, so you just fold that. Yeah, that doesn't really, okay, well, I think my cuff has to be the, see, look at how narrow that is too. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna overlap it about the amount so I get a seam allowance on this side, and I'm gonna tack it. Fiddly fiddly. Okay, there we go. Line up all these raw edges, and I'm gonna tack it. Did I say attack it? I meant tack it. I'm gonna tack it. Same thing on this end here. You just overlap so you have your little thumb hole there. Make sure I get it symmetrical from across from one another. Really pull out this little corner. You see the difference? Like when I let it just collapse in on itself, you know, and then if I really pull it so that this sewn edge is nice and smooth, it gets longer. And I want all those raw edges to line up as well so that they get caught in the seam. My thumb is kind of gigantic for that. But there we go. And then, I mean, that's almost that width there, kind of, right? Okay. Let me trim some of these threads out of the way. And let's prep the other one, and then we're gonna serge these inside the cuff. Okay. All right, so let's pull this. See, like I said, see how this is, it's collapsing in. I can't see the screen though, let me see. See, so it looks like you got a nice curve there, but if you really pull on this and get that smooth edge there, it makes it longer. Especially on this one here. This one really wants to collapse right here. If you pull on it, you get a nice long edge there. Let's see if I can get these about the same. At least I can get these the same from one to the other. And then I guess it doesn't matter if you put it on top or not because you can always use the other side. I need my all. Stay in there, please. I don't think I overlapped that one enough. That's just not enough of a bite. There's another way to do a thumb hole thing. Maybe someday I'll show you guys. It's not as many pieces of it too. Yeah, this one I'm going to overlap just a tad bit more. You guys are so quiet today. I know lots of folks are like, I don't need a kid's hoodie. Okay. That's a little too much, huh? I want them to feel the same. You know how kids are. They're going to be, this one's tighter. Oh, see, it's coming at this from this angle. It's better to start on the side, like, let's just start from this end and go that way, because this is the piece that's on top. See, it's the piece that's on top. That way it wouldn't push it away. All right, let's get rid of all these threads. And we're gonna enclose this and clean it up inside the cuff. Attach the cuff, attach the sleeve, we're done. Boom. All right, so this is what I'm about to do on the serger. I'm gonna wrap the cuff. I'm gonna use this fold edge, and I'm gonna line up my raw edge down here, and I'm gonna turn this back on itself, lining up this top folded edge here. Now, if you need to tack this in your straight stitch machine, I don't blame you one bit. In fact, let's do that, because getting this little edge right there perfectly on the fold is a little tricky. It'll want to push away, especially in your serger. Your serger's not subtle enough. And then that way, so when this opens up like this, you have as smooth a transition as you can expect right here, right? Because it's kind of hard to get a smooth transition. And I recommend doing it from the fold, sewing from the fold down towards the raw edge. Man, I can't even imagine doing this in like size 3 months. I don't think they need a thumb hole though. Maybe it's not an option. Oh, look at this. How much did I hang off there? About 1/4 of an inch. So I'm kind of making my cuff a little bit smaller so that it's the same height as this little thumb hole piece. Is this the one? Which side is the side? So this side, it lines up with the raw edge. Okay, there we go. I don't want to get any torquing. All right. Pre-sew. Line up all those raw edges. And then this way too, we can kind of look and see, did we catch all those thumb hole working parts? And is there any raw edges showing before we serge it? You don't even need to serge this, honestly. You clean out your dad's Tupperware cupboard. Tupperware is like the classic OG though. It works so good. I still have Tupperware. All right, so this is one, and you can see how my cuff is longer on one edge. I'm just going to trim that off so that my thumb hole is the same height as the cuff. Let's pre-sew this one here too. I wonder what's stronger. What would be easier to use? I think this would be easier to use so that you see this piece is the larger of the thumb hole pieces and it's overlapping on top of this one. I think this is the one I would want to be facing out so that when you put your thumb through here, this one sits a little lower and it's easier to get on and off, because these can be kind of hard to get on and off, you know. We did these at Hyde. I used to work at Hyde Apparel. which was like a fitness apparel company. And at the time, it was started by Hyde. He was a Olympic athlete, right? I didn't work for, when Hyde still owned it. And he sold it to Saucony Shoes, and that's when I worked there as a pattern drafter. It was a crazy amount of pattern drafting. Okay, so you could even do this. You could sew it like this on here with this open, and then pull it down and sew it again if you want to make it a little easier for yourself. I like the idea of folding it because it just feels kind of satisfying. But it does make it so that, like, look at that, it's nice and secure. Now I can fold it around it. And still, again, start from the fold edge and go down. Remember that I was having that issue with my presser foot kind of pushing things off the edge at my neckline? It would do that for sure on this. I feel like this cuff's going to be narrower than the other one. If only we got to sew a bunch in practice, right? Before we made these as gifts. Okay. So this one, it's this side is the side that all this lines up on. This is a nice touch though, so worth the effort. It's really not hard, it's just a little like fiddly. But it's the kind of thing that people love, this little detail. They just can't imagine that you can do that on something homemade. Just so weird. Yeah, right, Nicole? It is kind of nice. They're nice if you use it. If you don't use it, they're annoying because then you always have that cold spot. Okay. So line up my cuff so that it's folding and no torquing. And so see, I have this little extra that I'm just going to trim off right now. I don't really feel like I have to go back and serge those. You can if you want, but they don't need to stretch right there. Not like you think. You know, like it's still, because there's a little seam right here, right? And it's pretty fixed. They're going to stretch like this. That's about it. All right, so let's trim this off here. Make sure your cuff's nice and folded. You can even like stretch it out a little bit, make it a little easier. This is the fabric that curls a lot, but these pieces got starched really well. So they are behaving pretty good now. I showed them who's boss. All right. All right, so let's sew our sleeves together. So I'm gonna go to the serger, and first I'm gonna sew the underarm seam of my sleeve. Then I'm gonna sew the cuffs on, and then I'm gonna sew the sleeves to the garment. So I'm gonna pick right now, while it's nice and flat and everything is really easy to see, what the front of my cuffs will be. So they say to line up one seam to an edge, right? So let's do this. Let's do a notch at about where this seam will line up right here. And then we'll say that this is the front sleeve. So we'll put a notch so that that's the front. And then I have a left and a right, right? Let's just give ourselves this little gift. Right? So now we know our cuffs go to this end. We can even do this. We could even like pin them on there. Where's my, oh, here it is right here. We'll pin it to this end here. It's probably gonna get in my way when I serge though. But then we know, right? And it goes like this. Yeah, Sydney. Kind of hemmed and hawed a little on my neckline, and I rethought my zipper. So if you're interested in that, you should go back and look at that. Just that little section right before I put the twill tape on. We're at the very end though, so I'm gonna put the thumb hole cuffs on now, or the underarm seam, then the thumb hole cuffs, and then I'm gonna set the sleeves on. All right, so let's put the underarm seam right sides together. Remember, I already sewed my side seam, so I have to do it this way. I know a lot of folks like to leave their side seams open and then attach the sleeve. I don't ever do that, but I don't, you know, I don't judge anyone who does. The pressure is just a little too high. It's like pushing my fleece out of the way. What is wrong with this chat? It's so in the dark. It's like way back. The video is correct, but the chat is stuck at 12:50 p.m. We didn't see Malin or Terry today, did we? Our mods. Good thing you guys are a calm bunch. I mean, I know you're kind of unruly, but you know. All right, here's my other underarm seam. This is, again, a good opportunity to, you know, go, all right, let's see, where's my, remember I did a little notch? All right, so this is the front of my sleeve, so this would be the side that I would want the right side of my stitching to be on, because this is the front. Kind of, you know, staying in line with that tip earlier, I said to always have the front or the right side facing up when it goes through your serger. All right, so let's put our cuffs on. Okay. So stick it inside there. So glad I did all that prep of the which is the right and which is the wrong. Okay. Line up that thumb hole seam to the underarm seam. And what I like to do is kind of stretch this a little bit. This doesn't stretch very much. It's kind of odd. The sleeve's pretty narrow. It's not a very billowy sweatshirt, I don't think. That's a lot of layers though. All right, we don't need that. Let's try and get our seam right on there. And I'm gonna start sewing a little bit behind this seam right here on the back, so that when I press the seam allowance, I have time to like get up to the seam allowance before I press it one way. All right, make sure you get all layers. You'll be so sad if you don't get all your layers in there. And really what should be stretching is the cuff. I really don't find it to be very, like needing to be stretched to fit though. It kind of just fits. Oh, this seam's coming undone right here. What the heck? Can I fix that? Let's see if I can catch it. Come on, get back on there. So anytime you're doing these really small openings, I like to always do it from the inside of whatever it is, the neck, the armhole, anything that's a small opening, sleeve, cuff. And then that way the garment isn't, like you're not doing it from this side, because this can slip under there and get caught. All right, let's see how this looks. This fabric looks a little pajama-y. That looks pretty good though. Okay, so let's do this one on here now. So again, so this is my front. I want the thumb hole to go there. So right sides together. Let's stick it in there like that. It's all right. The chat's not updated for me. It's still back on like Angela telling me the light's good on her seam ripper thing. All right, line up that seam. Now this one, the seam allowance is getting pressed this way, so I can actually start here on the front a little bit and press the seam. And get all these edges lined up. Oh, I didn't give it kind of a good tug. Giving it a good tug to kind of get everything in place is kind of helpful. And if you do find that you're in a situation like this where you're stretching something to fit, always stretch it and then sew. Do not start sewing then stretch. So if it has to stretch, you want to stretch it and then hold it stretched and then sew. You don't want to bend your needles at all when they're going down into the loopers. It'll throw off your timing and break a needle. It'll also dull the hooks down there because you're pulling your needles and it's touching things down there it shouldn't. All right, so now we're going to put these on the jacket. Let me get the jacket. Oh no, Nancy, yeah. There was no such thing. Yeah, that's my only problem with PDF plotting is that they won't do layers. I say find an architect or a large format printer in your neighborhood. So I still have this little tail here. I'm going to use my single needle machine and secure it. All right, so we have our sleeve and now we have designated a front and a back. And I'm going to turn it right side out. And let's see here. Look at that. My presser foot, I don't know if you saw that I was like kind of trying to push my fabric when I was doing this underarm seam, but yeah, it was pushing my fabric away. So look at that, it's pretty off right there. Sheesh. All right, there's my front. And so that means you go on this one, this armhole here. I say maybe it's a good idea to check that your sleeve is actually going to have the thumb hole the way you want it. All right. So let's see. Yeah, I think that's right. You want it kind of on the inside. All right. All right, so we have our sleeve inside the armhole here. And I didn't find that there was any ease. In fact, I kind of had to stretch my sleeve to fit my nephew's. So, all right, in this juncture here, I'm going to push the seam allowance of the sleeve towards the front and the side seam towards the back just to offset the thickness there. Wait a minute, that's the, wait a minute. Let's look at this. I don't think you can see my table right here. I'm just going to turn this camera right here. Let's make sure we've got our correct sleeve with the thumb hole pointing the right way. You don't want to have to take out overlocking, right? So here's the little thumb hole. And if you were wearing it, sure it's a kid's, but let's just try it on. You would want it to be like this. Okay, so this right here would be the left sleeve. There's my underarm seam. That's the left sleeve. That's the left of the body. All right, now we're good. Gotta make sure. You don't want to take out the serging stitch, right? I'm glad we did that. Let's see, does that work? All right, so like I said, I'm going to offset that seam allowance. Sleeve seam towards the front, side seam towards the back. And look, there's my little front notch that I added, so I'm reassured. Glad I double checked though, because I think I did switch it. I sometimes have to lift my presser foot up, put it back on that seam because it pushes it and wants to bend it the other way because I have it pushing that way. I love machines where you can lift up the presser foot like that on the sergers. I don't know what it's called. I kind of learned what it was called when I bought this because I was like, oh, that's actually a feature? I thought that was normal. All right, so there's no notch, unfortunately, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Doesn't even matter if I can see my phone because the chat's not updated. Gotta twist your garment around. This is the last seams, by the way. We're almost done. This is the front, right? That's the back, that's the shoulder. So we actually want that shoulder seam, I think, to go backwards, yeah. I would have liked to see the sleeve match the armhole and not be smaller, if even just a little bigger. All right, I'm gonna leave a tail there. Secure it afterward. Last seam, and then all I gotta do is just clean up my tails and top stitch my label in there. It's so cozy. Every time I put my arm in there, I'm like, oh, it's so cozy. There are adult versions of these sweatshirts. The Donna and the Eric is the men's and the women's and the men's. All right, same thing. Seam allowances offset to kind of reduce the bulk. It's not like setting in a sleeve where you have to ease in the extra. It's pretty easy, except the fact that you have to kind of stretch it, which is weird. And again, see, I have the whole garment above my bed of my machine, so I'm not going to accidentally catch it under the needle. I can see my whole garment, which is great. Okay, this is the back, so we want this to go toward me. Almost there. All right, and so when you approach your serging here, what you want to do is try your best to kind of line up with where you started without cutting any of the threads of the first stitches. All right, let's go check it out. Oh my gosh, you guys talked a lot. Pattern Z will do layers too, Deborah. That's awesome though, that they have someone. And I saw that there's a new pattern printer around. I feel like it's called Brooklyn something. Called Sublime Graphics. Oh, okay. Projector would be cheaper. Right, Nicole? I know, the spaghetti in there. It's so full, I have to keep tamping it down. Hi, Kathy. Donna, Eric, and Hyde. Oh my gosh. I didn't catch that, Kathy. Nice one. I love it. I don't know. Could I use that spaghetti in the mulch? Maybe. It's synthetic. All right. Let's check it out. Let me tack my tails first. Here's one. let's put it in the seam allowance here. Okay. Oh, you cut it on the interfacing. Well, then you have a pattern then. All right, this is my last tail. Okay, and I think that was my only 2 tails that I had to secure on this whole project. All right, let's check it out. These kids are so, like, they're so great to ask, oh, can you pick out a fabric for something? Like I had them pick out pajama bottom fabric once, and they are so quick and decisive. Like when I did the pajamas, I actually sent her the link to Spoonflower, and I just thought, oh my God, my sister's gonna kill me. Because, you know, that's a rabbit hole, man. And she texted me back within like minutes. I was like, wow, okay, you guys are good. All right, extra long draw cords. I really liked Donna from that 70s show. I saw her in like one movie after that, and that was about it. Okay. Just kind of straightening it out. There's that thumb hole. There. I like the pun, Nicole. You'd be over the moon. Yeah, my sister says she's super excited. I'm just looking it over. I just saw these threads right here. What the heck, man? What the heck? Okay, let's see. Looks pretty good. I think, you know, it'll pass kid inspection, right? So we got our draw cord hoodie with the one funky eyelet. She'll think it looks like a face or a mouth, which I think she'll like. You've got the twill tape neck, which kind of makes it soft. Would have been a nice touch to do it in the center front, right? Yeah, it turned out pretty good, huh? Look at the pattern matching. Let's all take a moment to like appreciate the pattern matching. Looks good. Look at the color. Does the face cam look better? I don't know, you guys. This purple, I wish you could see this purple. Looks cool. Put her little hands in her pockets. It's so cozy. I'm so happy. It's like I'm sending them a hug. Aww. Right, Nancy? Yeah. The hood, we didn't work on the hood pattern matching, but that would have been something to think about. You know, like going across. That would have been pretty interesting. Yeah, the pattern matching, I'm so glad we did that. That looks, look at how, this looks actually kind of like, bing, you know. Now you want a space hoodie. Right, Matthew? They have this fabric at Stone Mountain and Daughter. It looks so much better in person, you guys. I'm not kidding. Like, it's not blues and greens. Wonder if I could take a picture with my phone and show you. Even on Instagram, it looked a little better, but it, oh, jeez. Like, do you see how light the purple is in my phone? Yeah, right, Angela? The Kylie Louise Mod Science. No. I'll have to look at that. What I love is when Spoonflower has my knit print. It recommends it to me. But I get people texting me, like friends. They will be like, look, your fabric's on the front page. And I just thought it was just like that for me, you know. So, right, Nancy, exactly. And so our side seams, we didn't get to match those, but that was our compromise, right? Let's look at the back. Look at that. My sister's never gonna lose her again. And this is that really stretchy French terry that's so soft from Heart's Fabric. It comes in like a billion colors. Probably doesn't show up well on their website, but it's like so nice. It's this heathery color, and it's really soft, super stretchy. I love it. All right, yeah, and remember, if any of you are want to make the Hyde, this particular, there is a code up there, which is really nice, a 5 out of 4 to send. And, but if you're buying any of the other fabrics, I'm an affiliate there. It's not a big deal if you forget. Don't worry about it. The next 5 out of 4 pattern I will be sewing is kind of soon. It's like in 2 weeks. And it's called the Ryan Raglan. It's a men's. And I'm going to do it in a sweater knit fabric. So it's going to be like a cozy Raglan sweater for my husband. Raglans are not his thing. So we're going to have to convince the patootie it looks good on him. Just so y'all are on the same page here. I know he's in a meeting right now, so he's not hearing this and watching me. He actually watches my stream sometimes. Isn't that weird? I don't even want to know that. I'm like, yeah, but I talk about you. I don't really, but you know, I want to be able to. So, all right, you guys. Well, this was fun. So next week I'll be sewing that new pattern that comes out today or tomorrow called my little cocoon project bag. Make a great gift, very fast to sew. Like even the sewing how-to video, including cutting, is 40 minutes. That's how fast it is. I could sew one in less than 12 minutes in production style. Nancy. Doesn't have to be past 5 for me, Nancy. Yeah, of course, Kathy. Welcome. Yeah, I know. You can't see the purple at all. It's so, yeah. Yeah, you'll see if you ever see me sew my blazer, which is that teal. Is my blazer behind me? Yeah, it's on the phone. That's so cute that it's like right there behind me. But, like it's so perfectly positioned. Like I did that on purpose. On my camera, it turns everything pink. Hey, Sand Dollar, how's it going? It's raining really hard and it's so dark out. Ooh. I won't say anything. Nancy. I mean, you know, maybe you can just start, you know, staying awake at night and then it would be day drinking. It would be your nighttime. Right? Is that how that works? All right, so Saturday I'll be sewing the lining of the blazer. No, she's on like the opposite side of the United States from you, Nancy. Next week the cocoon, and then after that the Ryan Raglan, and then I'm making the Mercer top from Sewing in the City, and I think she'll give you guys a code as well for that. And then the last week of October will be a men's Fairfield button-up, but we're going to be focusing on the pattern matching because I picked a gigantic plaid from Minerva. So, all right, guys, we'll see you Saturday. Thanks for coming. If you're new here, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. I'm always live Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm in California, so that's why Pacific. So West Coast. And I always post pictures of my makes on Instagram. And also, if you're wondering if I've sewn something and you are getting lost in the sauce of YouTube, just go to my website because there's a search bar on there and it makes it so easy. That way you can find all the links to all the videos, and then you'll also see like a really, really short little list of details, and it'll say what size I made, what fabric I used, and whatever mods I did. It's like, because some people are like, wait, mine doesn't look like that. And it's because I didn't realize that, you know, I made pockets on there when there wasn't any pockets or something. So that's a good place. So soso.live is my website. It's sunny there in Nova Scotia. Nancy, it's raining where you are. Wow. And raining where Sydney is. It's sunny here. Beautiful day. It actually feels like fall here lately. I love it. All right, guys. See you Saturday. Hasta la sábado.